market watchers say Japan's earthquake and resulting nuclear crisis might have an impact on the Treasury bond market here in the United States later this year. FLou Scatigna is the author of The Financial Physician. He's here with his take on the events. Welcome back, Louis.
Nice to be with you again.
So we know that Japan will have to spend tens of billions of dollars to rebuild, and they're going to have to sell U.S. bonds to pay for that?
Well, they may not sell U.S. bonds, but they're not going to come to our auctions, and that's real important. Japan's been a big buyer of our bonds, so if they don't come to the auction, who's going to buy it? Right now, the Federal Reserve is buying the majority of the U.S. bond issues that are coming out, and they say QE2 is going to end in June. If that happens, who's going to buy our bonds if Japan's not there and the Fed's not there?
Okay, what's the answer to that?
Well, the Federal Reserve is going to do QE3 and QE4.
It's the buyer of last resort.
It is the buyer of last resort. And they'll talk a good game and say, well, we're only going to go to June, and then they'll say, well, we're only going to go to August, and we're only going to go to December, and they can keep incrementally pushing it forward.
But there are other market watchers that I've talked to, experts out there, that say there's no way the Federal Reserve can actually go forward with another round of quantitative easing. That would crash the dollar. It is crashing the dollar, but what's the other alternative? Interest rates skyrocketing in the country, the housing market crashing further. That's what would happen. Interest rates would have to go up in the Treasury bond market to attract capital. And right now they're around 4% for the 10-year yield, right? Well, about 3.5%. But when he started QE2 in November, it was about 2.5%. So he's trying to keep interest rates down, but the bond market is pushing them up. Okay, so what are you predicting then for later in 2011 for the U.S. bond market? Well, I think the U.S. bond market is going to fall and fall hard with interest rates skyrocketing. And with that, we're going to see a crash in the dollar because foreigners are not going to sit around and watch the bonds go down. China's not going to let Japan sell. Great Britain's not going to watch China sell. So they're all going to try to get out first. And I think we may see a collapse or at least a big drop in the U.S. bond market later this year. And what does that mean for our inflation prospects? Because right now the Federal Reserve is pretty much ignoring inflation, saying that it's not a problem. Well, in the last 6 to 9 months, commodity prices have gone up 50 to 100%, especially food commodities. We see energy prices now over $100 a barrel. That's going to continue. So the Federal Reserve is in a box right now. If they stop quantitative easing, we're going to have a big problem with our bond market, and if they continue it, we're going to have an inflation problem. Okay, what are the longer-term implications of this? Because we see so many people in other parts of the world rising up against their governments because food prices are so high. And if inflation does grip the United States and pushes up our food prices even higher, are we going to be turning into those other countries that are seeing government uprisings? Yes, human nature is such that when you're hungry and you can't feed your kids, you have nothing left to lose. So you go into the streets and you protest. And we will see that day here. I mean, we saw it in Wisconsin in some small way, just based on their benefits being cut and their collective bargaining. We will see it when people are hungry. Okay, and you're predicting what as far as food prices in the United States over the next couple of years? Doubling to tripling, and that's an optimistic scenario as far as I'm concerned. How is the average American supposed to protect against this? The only way you can protect against it is to have precious metals in your life. I have 30 to 40% of my assets in precious metals, and I may go even higher as I watch things happen and unfold. You have to have tangible assets, things that will go up in that environment. Oil. Stocks. Actually, stocks will take off in an inflationary environment. It will protect you somewhat, but you want to have things, not paper. How can you say that stocks will go up when it's going to be, you would think it's going to be more difficult for companies to make money in an inflationary environment? I would rather own shares of ExxonMobil than have money in the bank that's just burning away, because there's a business there, there's tangible assets, there's an enterprise. So I would rather own stocks than have money in a CD. Okay, thank you so much for your advice. We appreciate it. FLou Scatigna, he's the author of The Financial Physician. He's also a syndicated radio host.